"You do not belong here, ma'am," the young officer said with a smirk, loud enough for the whole courthouse steps to hear. A few lawyers chuckled. Someone near the door pulled out a phone, whispering as they began to record. Mary Ellen's hand trembled slightly on the strap of her worn leather purse. Her eyes flicked down, steady but small, like she was trying not to shrink. Across the street, a black SUV waited, engine purring. "Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today?" Comment below. Mary Ellen Foster lived in a quiet brick duplex just outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of place with plastic flamingos in yards and mailboxes shaped like fishing boats. She was 67, with silver hair always pinned back in a clip. Most days, she wore the same gray cardigan with a little tear at the cuff and shoes that had long forgotten their shine. She did not drive. Instead, she walked. To the grocery store, the post office, and every Thursday morning to the public library. Children waved when they saw her. She always had biscuits in her purse for the strays and a soft greeting for the mailman. Inside her home, everything had a place. Books were stacked along the walls, sorted not by genre, but by how much they meant to her. On the coffee table sat a chipped white mug with the old CIA crest printed in faded blue. Most thought it was a novelty gift, probably from some flea market. She had no children, no siblings. Her husband, Charles, had passed away nearly 20 years ago. Army, Iraq. She never remarried. She never wanted to. His belongings stayed with her. His dog tags in the kitchen drawer, his worn leather purse now hers. She carried it everywhere. People sometimes smiled at it, thinking it was outdated. Inside, she kept 3 things: a pocket Bible, an old black and white photo of them in front of the Washington Monument, and a red pen that no longer worked. At the grocery store, she once helped a young mother pay for formula without a word. At the DMV, she gave up her seat for a man twice her size who never said thank you. Mary Ellen was the kind of woman people liked but forgot. When neighborhood kids got into trouble, they found themselves at her door, waiting on the porch for a quiet talk. She never raised her voice. She never made a fuss. Even the folks at the library joked that she probably shelved books in her dreams, but no one knew her well. Not really, and when she was stopped outside a federal building one morning, accused, questioned and dismissed, it did not surprise her. It hurt, yes, but it did not surprise her. She had been overlooked before, judged before. Still, she clutched the purse tighter, not out of fear, but because deep inside, she knew what that purse held. And she knew what kind of woman she still was. The kind who walks straight into a courtroom without blinking. The kind who drinks her coffee black and slow. The kind who once helped hold the world together and never told a soul. It began on a Tuesday, just after 9. Mary Ellen was walking her usual path, purse slung over her shoulder, cardigan buttoned to the top. She had a scheduled appointment at the federal building, a quiet matter. She had requested access to her late husband's sealed records. Something about his final mission had never sat right. She arrived 10 minutes early, as she always did. But before she reached the steps, 2 uniformed officers stepped in front of her. One placed his hand on her arm. "Ma'am, you cannot be here. This area is restricted." She blinked, calm but confused. "I have an appointment." They did not ask for her name, did not check a list. They only saw an old woman, with soft shoes and a cardigan. One officer gestured toward the sidewalk. "Trespassing, ma'am. Step away or you will be detained." A few people slowed to watch. Someone whispered, "What did she do?" Mary Ellen opened her purse slowly, her fingers steady. She tried to show them the printed appointment slip. One of the officers took the slip, barely glanced at it, then shook his head. "That is fake. You think this is a game?" She was stunned, but not frightened. "I worked with the federal government for 30 years, she said gently. "I know how these things work." The second officer laughed. Lady, unless you were a janitor, I doubt you even made it past reception. That is when someone across the street started filming. They cuffed her loosely. She did not resist. She only asked one thing. May I keep my purse with me? The older officer shrugged and allowed it. At the station, they fingerprinted her, took her photo, emptied her belongings onto a metal tray, an old cloth handkerchief, a worn pocket Bible, that faded photo of her and Charles, and a weathered, dog-eared paperback labeled Classified Operations. Fiction or fact? The younger officer picked it up and chuckled. Look at this. Maybe she thinks she is Jason Bourne's grandma. Mary Ellen looked down. She said nothing. They told her she was being charged with false representation, potential federal interference, and presence in a restricted area. Her mouth tightened, just slightly. She asked for one phone call. They laughed again. You really think someone is going to pick up for you? She nodded once, quietly. I believe he will, but the request was ignored. She was handed a court summons and escorted out with no apology, no explanation. People on the sidewalk paused to watch her leave. A little boy asked his mother, "What did the old lady do wrong?" The woman whispered, "I do not know, honey. Maybe she got lost." Mary Ellen did not explain herself. She walked home slowly, the leather purse thumping softly against her side. Where are you watching from today? Comment below. The morning of her court date was gray and still. A fine mist floated in the air, clinging to windows and coat sleeves. Mary Ellen rose early, made her coffee, and held her mug quietly by the window. The same chipped CIA mug, steam, curling gently. She dressed with care. Same gray cardigan, same slacks. Her husband's leather purse slung over her shoulder like always. She arrived at the courthouse alone. No lawyer beside her, no family in the pews. Inside, the courtroom buzzed, with voices and movement. A teenager with a speeding ticket, a man fighting a parking fine, a woman sobbing quietly about child custody. Mary Ellen sat in the back until her name was called. People turned to look. Some whispered. She walked forward, head high, shoes tapping gently on the floor. The prosecutor leaned over to the court-appointed defender and smirked. The impersonator has arrived. The public defender, a tired woman with files stacked to her ears, whispered to Mary Ellen, "Just plead no contest, ma'am. I can probably get it reduced to a fine or community service." Mary Ellen's voice was calm. "No, thank you. I would like to speak when permitted." The defender blinked. The prosecutor chuckled. As the case opened, the young officer from that morning took the stand. He told the room how she refused orders, claimed false clearance, and carried books full of conspiracy theories. The prosecutor nodded along, even quoted a line from the paperback, something about shadow agents and signal drops. The gallery chuckled. A few people shifted, embarrassed on her behalf. Mary Ellen sat quietly, her hands folded over the purse in her lap. When asked if she had anything to say, she replied simply, "I would like to speak after all testimonies are heard." The judge, a gray-bearded man with a stiff posture, narrowed his eyes but gave a nod. The crowd grew restless. Phones were checked. Whispers floated through the gallery, but she never fidgeted, never once looked away from the front. And in the second row, a man in dark sunglasses leaned forward slightly. He wore a navy suit and held no paperwork. He had not moved since she entered. No one noticed him. No one but Mary Ellen. When the officer mocked the contents of her purse again, describing the souvenir CIA mug and ancient badge, the prosecutor laughed aloud. It echoed in the quiet room. The judge did not smile. He glanced at Mary Ellen, then checked the clock. The prosecutor finished with a flourish. "This is a clear case of someone trying to relive an old fantasy, Your Honor." The government cannot waste resources on every delusion. Mary Ellen's gaze stayed level, even as her hands curled tighter around the strap of that leather purse. Even as the laughter died down. Even as the man in the second row nodded, once, without smiling. The judge cleared his throat and looked directly at Mary Ellen. "You may speak now, ma'am." She rose slowly. No rush. Her hands were steady, her voice calm. "Thank you, Your Honor." She stepped forward and stood behind the podium, her leather purse resting on the edge. "I did not come here to cause trouble," she began. "I came because my husband's service records were sealed without cause, and I had an appointment to view them. I was stopped before I ever reached the door." She looked toward the officer who had testified. "I told you the truth. You chose not to listen." The courtroom was quiet. No more whispers now. She unfastened the strap on her purse and reached inside. Somewhere in the back, someone let out a small cough. A phone buzzed quietly and was silenced. Mary Ellen pulled out a worn, folded wallet. It was brown, creased along the seams, clearly old. She opened it. Inside was a faded ID card and, beside it, a dull gold badge, small, round, and edged with the unmistakable seal of the Central Intelligence Agency. Gasps filled the room. The prosecutor stumbled back a step. The public defender's mouth parted, but no words came. Mary Ellen's voice never changed. "I worked as an intelligence liaison for 28 years. Domestic operations, surveillance logistics, most of it behind desks, some of it not." She turned the ID card so the judge could see. Retired status, clearance level listed, official signature. The judge leaned forward, squinting. He motioned for the bailiff to bring it to him. From the second row, the man in sunglasses finally stood. "Your Honor," he said with crisp authority, "I am Mark Hadley, Department of Justice. That identification is authentic and on record. Ms. Foster's service was classified until recently, following automatic declassification protocols for retired field assets." The courtroom was still. The judge looked from the ID to Mary Ellen, then back to the officer who had arrested her. "You are telling me this woman was detained while attempting to access her own federal appointment? As a former intelligence agent?" Mark Hadley gave a single nod. The judge's face darkened. "Why was this not disclosed earlier?" Mary Ellen answered, her voice still, soft. No one asked. There was nothing smug in her tone, no victory, just quiet fact. The prosecutor began to stammer something about miscommunication, about how things fell through. The judge raised his hand sharply. "Enough!" He turned to the officer, who had laughed at her, the one who had testified so easily. "You mocked her credentials. You mishandled her appointment. You dismissed her without even checking basic verification." He looked back at Mary Ellen. "And you, ma'am, remained calm through every bit of it." She nodded once. "I have been through worse," she said. Her fingers brushed the top of her purse, where her husband's army patch was sewn into the lining. The courtroom remained hushed. No one moved. The judge stared at the ID again, then looked at the DOJ agent. "Please stay for further inquiry. This hearing is no longer routine." Mary Ellen stepped back, folded her wallet carefully, and tucked it into the purse. The same one no one thought mattered. What would you do if you saw this happen to someone at your local courthouse? The judges. Gavel struck once, sharp and final. "Case dismissed with prejudice," he said. And then, more slowly, "There will be a formal inquiry into how this was allowed to happen." The courtroom erupted, not with cheers or applause, but with a heavy, stunned silence. The prosecutor stood frozen, his notes limp in one hand. The public defender quietly packed her files, her eyes flicking toward Mary Ellen with something like regret. The young officer who had mocked her, he shifted in his seat, his face pale. The judge turned toward him. "Officer Doyle, you are hereby." placed on administrative leave pending an internal review. Someone in the back gasped. Doyle looked down at his lap, hands clenching, unclenching. Mary Ellen said nothing. She did not gloat. She did not glance his way. She simply adjusted the strap on her purse, now a little looser on her shoulder. The DOJ agent stepped forward again, requesting a short statement from the court to clear Mary Ellen's name in the public record. The judge agreed. Let it be known, Ms. Foster's background is both honorable and classified. Her conduct here today reflects great restraint and grace. Whispers broke through the crowd. Is she really CIA? Did you see that badge? Phones were now lowered. No one was recording anymore. It felt too sacred, too raw. The bailiff opened the doors. Outside, a few reporters had gathered. Word had already begun to spread. Flashes blinked. Questions were shouted. Ms. Foster, do you have a statement? Were you wrongly profiled? Do you plan to sue? Mary Ellen paused on the top step. She looked out over the courthouse lawn. A breeze tugged lightly at her cardigan. She reached into her purse, not for her ID, but for her sunglasses. She slid them on, then turned to face the reporters. I came here today to ask for answers about my husband. I got more than I expected. That is all. She nodded once. Then she turned, slowly, and descended the steps. The DOJ agent walked beside her in silence, holding a folder against his chest. At the bottom of the steps, the black SUV waited, same one from before. No markings, just the quiet hum of its engine. The back door opened. She looked over her shoulder, one last glance at the people on the steps. Some of them looked ashamed. A few clapped quietly. Others simply stared, unsure how to respond. Mary Ellen gave no speech. She did not wave. She stepped into the vehicle with the same quiet grace that had carried her through every moment of that day. The door shut behind her with a soft click. The SUV pulled away slowly, the tires whispering over the pavement. And in the rearview mirror, the courthouse faded from view. 3 weeks later, a plaque appeared on the wall of the South End Public Library. It was small, made of bronze, placed quietly between the biographies and large print fiction. No ribbon cutting. No speeches. Just a simple inscription. In honor of quiet service and dignity in the face of judgment. Mary Ellen Foster, retired. Mary Ellen did not attend the installation. She sent a handwritten note instead, tucked inside a library book she quietly returned the night before. The note said only this: "Thank you for remembering that not all heroes look the same." The librarian who found it cried a little at her desk. She read it aloud to the staff, then placed the book back on the shelf, exactly where Mary Ellen had left it. Back in her neighborhood, nothing changed much. The sidewalk still cracked under slow rains. The corner store still ran out of eggs every Friday, and Mary Ellen still walked. Same cardigan, same shoes, same leather purse. But people looked at her differently now. The mailman started calling her ma'am. The cashier who once ignored her now asked how she was doing. Even the children who used to laugh at her old shoes now came to walk beside her, asking quiet questions about the world. She answered what she could. And when she could not, she said, "That is for another time." One evening, she found a letter in her mailbox. It was from Officer Doyle. The envelope was plain, the handwriting stiff. Inside was a one-page apology. Honest, awkward. He wrote about how he was undergoing training in community sensitivity now, how he had never met anyone like her, how he realized that his first instinct was not to listen, but to judge. She folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer beside her husband's. Dog tags not to forget, but to forgive. In the mornings, she still sat on her porch with her CIA mug steaming in the soft light, and the leather purse, Charles's purse, still sat on the chair beside her, full of memories and things people never bothered to ask about. Sometimes, she would reach in and touch the old red pen. It still did not work. But she kept it anyway. for the things she had written long ago and the things she had chosen never to write down. One quiet morning, a girl from down the street stopped by with her backpack slipping off one shoulder. She asked, "Miss Foster, do you think I could be strong like you one day?" Mary Ellen smiled and handed her a biscuit for the walk to school. "You already are," she said. "You just have to grow into it." And with that, she leaned back in her chair, the sun just beginning to warm the porch steps. Her eyes closed for a moment, not from tiredness, but from peace. Because she had walked through fire without anger, and somehow the world had begun to see her clearly again.